Erik 10. Hag sacked 5 stats that justify Man Ud's decision. The Erik Ten Hag era at Manchester United is over. After Sunday's 2-1 Premier League defeat to West Ham, United bosses wielded the axe, and the numbers suggest they were right to do so. 2.5 years on from being appointed the permanent successor to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as Manchester United manager, Erik Ten Hag's time at Old Trafford has come to an end. In the wake of Sunday's 2-1 defeat to a West Ham side who have been largely underwhelming this season, the United hierarchy made their move on Monday and announced Ruud van Nistelrooy is taking over on an interim basis until a full-time replacement is found. While Ten Hag's dismissal might have come as a shock to some in the way any major breaking news story may be startling, in truth, the writing has been on the wall for a long time. Now, you don't get sacked from Manchester United for no reason. The board clearly felt that results weren't good enough, and when you look at the stats, it's hard to argue. Ten Hag has overseen a lot of football matches during his time in charge, and he's lost a surprisingly high number of them. I'm not just talking about the odd slip-up against a top-6 rival either. We're talking about defeats to teams United would have expected to beat comfortably in the past. Remember that 5-0 drubbing at home to Liverpool last season? Or how about that 4-0 hammering away at Brentford? Those weren't just bad days at the office. They were symptomatic of a deeper malaise under Ten Hag. When you break it down, his overall loss rate is simply not good enough for a club of Manchester United's stature. They expect to be challenging for major honours, not scrapping for a top-6 finish. The board clearly felt that Ten Hag wasn't the man to take them forward, and the stats seem to back them up. Forget about last season for a moment, let's focus on the here and now. Manchester United's start to the current campaign has been nothing short of abysmal. They've looked disjointed, devoid of ideas, and frankly, a million miles away from the team that Sir Alex Ferguson built. To put it into context, their points tally at this stage of the season is worse than any they've had in the Premier League era. That's right, even David Moyes managed to scrape more points on the board during his ill-fated tenure. The performances haven't been much better either. They've lacked any kind of spark or creativity going forward, and at the back, they've been as leaky as a sieve. It's been painful to watch at times, even for a neutral like myself. Let's be brutally honest, 8th place is not where Manchester United should be. This is a club steeped in history, a club that expects to be competing for titles, not scrapping for a place in the Europa Conference League. To put their struggles into perspective, let's look at the teams they finished behind last season. You had Manchester City, Arsenal, Liverpool, Tottenham, Newcastle, Brighton, and even Aston Villa. Now, I'm not saying that United should be expected to finish above City every year, but to be below Villa, that's simply unacceptable. The Premier League is more competitive than ever, but United should still be aiming to be up there with the best. They've got the resources, they've got the history, and they've certainly got the fan base. But under Ten Hag, they've consistently fallen short of expectations. Manchester United's problems haven't been limited to just one area of the pitch. They've struggled at both ends, and the stats paint a pretty damning picture. Let's start with the attack. They've been wasteful in front of goal, squandering countless chances that a team of their stature should be burying. The expected goals data backs this up. They've consistently underperformed their expected goals, meaning they're not taking the chances they're creating. That's usually a sign of a lack of confidence or a lack of quality in the final third. Now, let's talk about the defense. They've been all over the place at times, conceding sloppy goals and looking vulnerable every time the opposition ventures forward. Again, the stats don't lie. They've conceded far too many goals, and their expected goals against is through the roof. It's not just down to individual errors either. The whole defensive structure has been suspect, and they've looked there for the taking at times. Remember the days of Fergie time? Those were the days when Manchester United would somehow conjure up a goal in the dying minutes, breaking the hearts of their opponents and sending the Old Trafford faithful into raptures. Under Sir Alex Ferguson, it felt like they had an extra man on the pitch, an almost supernatural ability to find the back of the net when it mattered most. Fast forward to the present day, and it's a very different story. The late goals have dried up, and with it, that aura of invincibility has vanished. They've become a soft touch, a team that crumbles under pressure and seems resigned to their fate long before the final whistle blows. The stats tell their own story. The number of goals they've scored in the last 15 minutes of matches has plummeted, and the number of points they've dropped from winning positions is simply unacceptable for a club of their stature. It's not just about the lack of goals either. It's about the mentality, the belief, the never-say-die attitude that was once their trademark. Sadly, those qualities seem to have deserted them in recent years. It's easy to point the finger at the manager when things go wrong, and in Ten Hag's case, the stats certainly don't make for pretty reading. He's lost more games than he should have, his team has been defensively suspect, and they've been toothless in attack. But was he the problem? Or was he simply a symptom of a deeper malaise at Old Trafford? Time will reveal all.